After 35 years of struggle, a middle-aged woman finally lands her first full-time job, only to be humiliated and fired for being too ugly. But when her arrogant boss falls for a massive phishing scam, she makes a shocking offer to help him recover his money. What follows is a wild undercover mission that changes everything. Let's begin. It was 2017, and young Sil had waited 35 years for this moment. All her life she has been doing odd jobs, and now her first real contract job at the National Security Department. Finally, she thought her luck was turning. That morning, she squeezed into the crowded train, clutching her bag tight. That's when she saw a man in a jacket slipping behind a woman. He slit the woman's bag and stole her purse. Young Sil's heart pounded. She wanted to scream, to act, but fear froze her. The thief melted into the crowd and stepped off at the next stop. What young Sil didn't know was that dozens of undercover officers were already on that train, hunting a far bigger target. Today was supposed to be the day. The train doors began closing. Something inside her snapped. She lunged forward, clutched the thief's jacket, and blocked the doors with her body. "Let go, you crazy woman," he snarled, but she refused. The victim realized her wallet was missing and began screaming. The thief's face darkened, ready to strike, until Officer Young A appeared. With one brutal kick, she sent him crashing to the ground and pummeled him like a machine. But her team leader's rage wasn't at the thief. "Do you realize what you've done? Our real target just escaped because of this petty criminal." For young Sil, the nightmare was only beginning. She hurried to work, lost a shoe to a passing car, and limped into the office with one bare foot. Still, she tried to smile. Her job was simple, typing fake positive reviews for government programs. Not glamorous, but steady pay. Then her boss, Manager Park, summoned her. His voice was cold. "We're not renewing your contract." Young Sil world spun. "But why? Did I do something wrong?" He just waved her off. "Clean out your desk." Moments later, her phone rang. "Mom." Forcing her voice bright, she lied into the receiver. "Hi, Mom. Everything's perfect here. My job is going great." The words nearly choked her. Back at the administrative building, young Sil returned her ID card with shaking hands. Still, something pulled her back toward her old office. Maybe if she begged, Manager Park would reconsider. Inside, Manager Park answered a call. A smooth voice spoke flawless Korean. "This is Foreign Minister Park. Transfer $500,000 from company funds immediately. It's an emergency." A government minister was calling him directly. He felt important and approved it within minutes, but when he tried to confirm, the number was dead. Panic hit. He called the official number of the minister's office. "What transfer?" came the baffled reply. His blood ran cold. The money was gone, already wired overseas. $500,000 vanished. His scream echoed through the building. That's when young Sil appeared at his door. "I just came to say goodbye," she murmured, then froze at the sight of his pale face. "You got voice fished, didn't you? Maybe I can help." "Leave," he snapped, though his hands wouldn't stop shaking. He begged for help from every department, but no one wanted the mess. Desperate, he grabbed young Sil's old resume. Computer skills, languages, detail-oriented. Moments later, he visits young Sil at her home and slides a file to her. "DH Holdings. The call was traced here. Find out if they took my money. Get it back, and I'll make you permanent." The next morning, young Sil heads for a job interview at DH Holdings and immediately gets hired. Later, she reports to work and tries to snoop around, but ends up bumping into a man. "I'm looking for the education room," she stammered. "Follow me," he said gently. Inside the briefing, her blood ran cold. The trainer explained with pride, "We call people pretending to be government banks. They hand over their money thinking it's safe." Then the man she'd met walked to the front. "Welcome, I'm Min-suk, president of DH Holdings." His smile was warm, his voice kind. Young Sil stared in disbelief. How could someone so sincere-looking be running this? Then young Sil noticed a woman with fierce eyes in the room next door. Recognition struck. It was the same officer who'd kicked the thief on the train. Her stomach dropped. What was a cop doing here? She slipped into the bathroom and called her Manager Park. A cop is working at the call center, but he tells her to just do her job. Later, at the call center, young Sil watched in disbelief. Young Ah was barking into her headset. "Listen, you old fool, your account is compromised. Do you want to lose everything?" The harshness made young Sil uneasy, and her dread deepened when the manager pointed at her. "You'll sit next to her. She'll be your mentor." Young Sil froze. The cop was less than 3 feet away. That evening, Manager Park arrived with a thick file. He slid a photo across the table. "Young Ah, just as we suspected, undercover police, so she's after Min-suk," young Sil whispered. Manager Park shook his head. Presidents are just puppets. The real boss hides in the shadows. We need to find him first. Once the cops move in, my money is gone forever." He pushed a tiny camera and an ID badge into her hands. "I'm putting everything on you now." Young Sil's hands trembled as she dialed her first number. "Hello, this is the Government Financial Protection Agency," she read shakily from the script. The woman on the line cut her off. "Government agency? This sounds like a scam." Call after call, it was the same. "You criminals make me sick," one man shouted. "I hope you rot in jail." Each word stabbed at young Sil. Tears welled as she slipped out of the call center. She wasn't built for this. That's when Song Yi, a veteran scammer, slid her a coffee. "Don't think about the victims. Think about your paycheck. That's how you survive." Young Sil wiped her eyes. She had to make this work for the permanent job. Her next call, she tried something different. No script, just her own voice. "Sir, I'm calling because your account shows suspicious activity." The old man gasped. "Oh my, what should I do?" 30 minutes later, he deposited the money into the company's account. Young Sil stared at her screen, stunned. She'd actually pulled it off. By the end of the week, she was the center's top performer, and even President Min-suk took notice of her. At the company dinner, Min-suk raised his glass. "Everyone, learn from young Sil. In just 1 week, she's our star." Applause thundered. Later at the bar, she laughed, danced and drank with her new team. For the first time in years, she felt like she belonged. But elsewhere, Manager Park was seething as he watched through the spy camera. "She's partying with the thieves who stole my money," he shouted at the monitor. "Has she lost her mind?" Meanwhile, Jung-ae was focused on her mission. While the others celebrated, she slipped into a private room. Min-suk's blazer hung on the chair. She rifled his phone and quickly imports the information on his SIM card and tells her partner to run it. Outside the washroom, young Sil staggered and someone held her up. It was Min-suk. "Are you okay, young Sil?" he asked softly. Her eyes widened. You know my name." "Of course I do," he smiled. No boss had ever remembered her before. The next morning, her skull throbbed like it was splitting open. Her phone rang. "What were you doing last night?" Manager Park roared. "Just do your job." That call pulled her back to reality, and that night, young Sil zipped herself inside a garbage bag for cover, pulled on a black mask, and climbed the fire escape. She used the master key card Manager Park handed her and made it into Min-suk's office. The office was silent, pitch black. She switched on a pen light, crept to Min-suk's desk, and powered up the computer. Password protected. She hid a micro camera in the plants behind, hoping that it would catch him typing his login. But across the hall, Jung-ae, who was also here to look for more information, noticed the faint beam of light. She quickly headed for the doorway. When Jung-sil turned toward the exit, when an iron grip yanked her back. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" she thrashed, mask slipping off. Jung-ae's eyes went wide. "Jung-sil!" Heavy footsteps pounded closer. A security guard rounded the corner, only to be dropped instantly by Jung-ae's fist. "Move, now," she barked, dragging young Sil toward the stairwell. 2 minutes later, the unlikely pair hijacked a taxi and hurried away. Inside the taxi, Jung-ae's head snapped around when young Sil blurted out she worked for the National Security Department. "NSA," she hissed. Why would National Security care about phone scammers? Young Sil's hands trembled. "I can't tell you everything, but you're going to blow months of my work," Jung-ae shouted. "Pull out, now." Before young Sil could answer, headlights flared in the rearview mirror. The security guard from earlier was tailing them. Instinct took over. She wrenched the wheel hard left and made a sudden turn. The guard's car roared after them. At the intersection, the guard's car slammed into their taxi, sending it spinning into a signpost. Dazed, they stumbled out just as police sirens wailed closer. No time to think. They bolted into the night. The next morning, Young-ah stormed into Manager's Park office like a hurricane. "Pull out now," she snapped. An hour later, the police chief arrived, eyes blazing. He and Manager Park clashed, both demanding the other back down. Neither moved an inch. "Fine," the chief growled. "Joint operation it is." Back at DH Holdings, Jung-ah cornered young Sil. "Last chance," she whispered. "Walk away before you get us both killed." Then young Sil's phone buzzed. Manager Park's voice was ice cold. "Joint operation, work with the cop, that's an order." Seconds later, Jung-ah's phone rang. "Cooperate with NSA. Final decision." They exchanged baffled looks until text messages lit up their screens at the same time. "Pretend to cooperate. Gather intel on their real mission. Trust no one." The next day, the manager summoned them. "New assignment, face-to-face meetings. You two are in charge." Young Sil's stomach dropped. Face-to-face meant looking victims in the eye while robbing them blind. On their first job, Young A nudged her forward. "You handle this. I am not good with the elderly." Trembling, Young Sil approached an elderly man. "Sir, your bank account is compromised," she said, every word like broken glass. "We need to transfer your savings into a safe government account." The man's face softened with relief. "Thank goodness, this money is for my wife's surgery next week." The words sliced through her. She glanced at the manager, watching from the corner. The bosses were spying, but she couldn't do it. "Sir, you should leave, right now." Jung-a's eyes flashed. She couldn't let Young-sil's softness ruin everything. She lunged forward, took the envelope from the man's hands and said, "Your money is safe with us." Later, Jung-ah scolded Young-sil. "Are you insane? You almost ruined months of work. We have to catch the real boss or more people will lose their life savings." Later that night, Jung-ah walked into the manager's office. "Hey," she said, aiming for flirtatious but landing closer to a growl. "Want to grab drinks?" She leaned against the wall, trying for a seductive pose, but it came off awkward instead. Still, the manager's eyes lit up. Jung-ah forced a smile. This was going to be a long night. Meanwhile, Manager Park sat frozen in front of his monitor. Min-suk typed at his computer nearby, but Manager Park's focus snapped to his finance team. "Boss, you need to hear this. That burner account we've been tracking, it just went active again." "Where?" "Justice Department. Some department head fell for a phishing scam and got fired today." The men laughed, but their boss's blood ran cold. If the truth came out, he was finished. He had to recover the money fast. He turned to the hidden camera feed, only to find the screen black. The camera was dead. No, he slammed his desk. Everything was unraveling. That same evening, Young Sil met Song Yi for dinner. "You've been here the longest," Young Sil said cautiously. "Have you ever seen the chairman?" Song Yi said, "Nobody has, not once, although there are rumors that President Min-suk is his adopted son." Across town, Young-ae sat at a bar, adjusting a dress that made her deeply uncomfortable, far too revealing for someone used to tactical gear. But she needed information, and the manager clearly had a weakness for women. "Young-ae, you look incredible tonight," the manager said, eyes lighting up. She forced a smile. "I want to meet the chairman directly," she said, cutting to the chase. "I want him to notice my capabilities and get promoted." The manager chuckled and slid a hotel keycard across the table. "Win my favor first, then we'll talk about moving up." Young-ae had no choice but to play along. They headed to the hotel room, and as soon as he stepped into the bathroom, she cloned his phone and transferred all the data to her device. Then fate intervened. The manager slipped in the bathroom, crashing hard to the floor. The injury was in a very unfortunate spot. Within minutes, paramedics were wheeling him out, and Young-ae walked away, data intact. Later, Jung-a's colleague handed her Min-suk's SIM card analysis. But he tells her that it is very odd, as there are only two numbers that he calls, a local chicken feet restaurant and the manager. For a company president, this made no sense. Either this wasn't Min-suk's main phone, or he wasn't the real decision-maker after all. The next morning, Manager Park crouched in the parking garage, struggling to attach a GPS tracker under Min-suk's car. His hands shook as he fumbled with the tiny device. Min-suk appeared moments later, and Park quickly dove under the car. Just before the car moved, he managed to secure the tracker. As Min-suk's car disappeared up the ramp, Park finally exhaled. Back at the office, Jung-ae and Young Sil huddled over the fragments of information they'd gathered. Every lead seemed to hit a dead end. Then came the news that Yoon Jung, a colleague, had suddenly quit, unable to handle the pressure. Jung-ae's mind raced. "You need to get to Yoon Jung's house," she told Young Sil urgently. "Find out what really happened to her. I'll handle Min-suk myself." Young Sil's face fell. She had grown fond of Min-suk and wanted to be the one to spend time with him instead. But fate intervened at the bus stop. A sleek car pulled up beside her. There he was, flashing that winning smile. "Need a ride?" he asked. Young Sil's heart skipped. She quickly messaged Jung-ae. "Change of plans. You go to Yoon Jung's place. Min-suk is here with me." He brought her out for dinner, and Young Sil mentioned she loved chicken feet, hoping it might lead to a breakthrough. When the fiery red dish arrived, she forced herself to eat, sweat pouring down her face as each bite burned her mouth. She smiled through the torture, determined to keep up her act. Later, when he dropped her off, he did something unexpected. He gave her his personal number. Young Sil practically floated on air, clutching the slip of paper like treasure. From across the street, Young-ae watched in disbelief. "Let's go to your place," Young-ae called. "We need to talk." Young Sil tried to suggest a cafe, but Jung-ae wasn't budging. They ended up in Young Sil's tiny apartment, where Jung-ae learned that Young Sil had downgraded from a better place to return money to an old man she had scammed. A wave of shame washed over Jung-ae. "Move in with me," she insisted. "I'm just as responsible for what happened." At Jung-ae's apartment, Young-sil's eyes widened. Every wall was plastered with case files, photos, yet the investigation had hit another snag. Jung hadn't been home in days, and Min-suk revealed nothing either. Jung-ae's expression grew heavy. She remembered overhearing Jung's desperate plea to the manager just days earlier. A young mother in a college dorm had confronted Jung through tears, explaining how the scam had left her unable to feed her baby. Jung had rushed to their manager, begging him to return even a small portion of the stolen money. His response had been ice cold: "If you don't like the job, get lost." As Jung finished the story, her voice barely above a whisper, Young-sil saw a flicker of kindness in her partner's eyes. Without thinking, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around her. Jung stiffened at first, unused to such tenderness, but slowly she melted into the embrace. Their partnership took an unexpected turn. Instead of targeting innocent people, Jung and Young-sil decided to flip the script. They would only go after those who deserved it: cheaters who broke hearts, scammers preying on the weak, anyone who had it coming. It was justice, twisted but strangely satisfying. Days blurred together. They became inseparable, working side by side, sharing meals, and eventually crashing in the same apartment. Their friendship deepened with each passing day, built on shared guilt and a newfound sense of purpose. One morning, Jung awoke with a pounding headache and something strange on her waist, a small tattoo she didn't remember getting. She glanced at Young-sil and nearly gasped. The same design was on her friend. "Oh no, oh no, oh no," Jung muttered, frantically rubbing at the fresh ink, as if sheer panic could erase their drunken mistake. The morning got worse when Young-sil's phone rang. Jung-ae grabbed it as Young-sil was in the bathroom, but Manager Park's voice exploded through the speaker before she could say a word. "You worthless piece of trash. You think you can just disappear? I'll make sure you never work anywhere again. You hear me?" Jung-ae's blood ran cold as the verbal assault continued. This was how her partner had been treated all along, like garbage. When the call finally ended, Jung-ae immediately contacted her sources to dig deeper and learned that Young-sil had been fired a few weeks ago. The next day at their main office, the manager gathered everyone for a major announcement. His eyes gleamed with greed as he outlined their next target: government organizations with deep pockets and loose oversight. "This is the big leagues," he declared. "Who's ready to make some real money?" Jung-ae and Young-sil exchanged glances before raising their hands. The manager wasted no time showing them his methods. He dialed a number and put on his most authoritative voice. "This is regarding the Army budget allocation," he said smoothly to the person on the other end. "Due to rising operational costs, we need an immediate increase in funding." When the Army manager hesitated, the tone shifted dangerously. "I don't think you understand the consequences of refusing this request," the manager hissed, his voice dripping with menace. "Your career, your family's security, everything depends on your cooperation right now." Within minutes, the terrified official had authorized the money and Jung-ae and Young-sil were ordered to retrieve it. Young-sil's hands shook as she dialed Manager Park's number. She had to report what they'd discovered, but his response crushed her hopes of doing the right thing. "I don't care about solving cases," he said coldly. "Just get my money back and get out of that organization. That's all I need from you." "But what about Jung-ae?" Young-sil asked desperately. "Stop thinking about others and start thinking about yourself," he cut her off sharply. "Do this right, and I'll give you that full-time position we discussed." Everything she'd worked for, everything she'd dreamed of, it was right there within reach, but it meant abandoning Jung-ae. The duo head to the army camp, and the army sergeant handed over the briefcase. They walked toward the exit, both trying to look casual while their nerves screamed. But fate had other plans. Another soldier rushed past them, juggling his own briefcase, and suddenly it slipped from his hands, clattering to the ground. In that split second of chaos, Young-sil saw her chance. Manager Park's words echoed in her mind: "Get the money and secure her future." Before she could think twice, she grabbed the briefcase and bolted. "Young-sil!" Jung-ah shouted, immediately giving chase. Young-sil's lungs burned as she ran, Jung-an's footsteps pounding behind her. When Young-sil saw an army truck leaving the camp, she leaped into the back, leaving Jung-ah standing there, betrayed. Jung-ae immediately called her superior. "We need to raid the headquarters now," she said urgently. "Something major is going down, and we're running out of time." But as she hurried toward the exit, a black car screeched to a halt in front of her. 3 men stepped out and cornered her, and the manager lowered his windows. "So," he said with a cold smile, "Jung-ae the detective and Young-sil from the NSA. Did you really think we wouldn't find out?" Their cover was blown completely. The men moved in, and Jung-ae was ready to take them down. But 3 against 1 was impossible odds. They overwhelmed her with sheer numbers. Meanwhile, young Sil limped into the small cafe, her face streaked with blood and dirt. She clutched the briefcase like a lifeline, desperate to finally complete her mission. But when Manager Park opened it, her heart plummeted. Fake money. You see, Manager Park said with a satisfied smirk. I never trusted you from the beginning. That soldier who accidentally dropped his briefcase, he was working for me. I already have the real money. Young Sil's world crumbled around her. But you promised me the job. You said, this is how the real world works. Young Sil, people like you are just tools to be used and discarded. She dropped to her knees, all pride forgotten. Please, I did everything you asked. And that's exactly why you'll never be one of us, he said, stepping over her as if she were trash. The officers arrive at DH Holdings, and the atmosphere grows tense as the whole office has been emptied. The officers tried repeatedly to reach Young-A and Young Sil, but both of them were uncontactable. So, the chief ordered one of his officers to tail Manager Park. At the same time, Manager Park pulled up to a quiet patrol station, practically giddy with success. His nightmare was finally over. He had the money, and he was free from the phishing case that had been hanging over his head. He popped open his briefcase to count his victory. His smile vanished instantly. Stacks of fake bills stared back at him. What? He screamed, frantically dialing Young Sil's number, knowing that she was the one who swapped the cases. The phone rang and rang, but no one answered. That night, desperation drove Young Sil to call Min-suk. Her voice trembled as she asked about Jung-A. I'm still deciding what to do with her, he said casually, as if discussing the weather. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit warehouse across town, Jung-A worked frantically at the ropes binding her wrists. Her training kicked in as she spotted weaknesses in her restraints. When 2 guards came to check on her, she was ready. Despite their size advantage, years of combat training made the difference. She moved like lightning, striking pressure points and using their momentum against them. Just as freedom seemed within reach, she heard the distinctive click of a gun being cocked. Min-suk stood in the doorway. Someone wants to talk to you, he said, holding out his phone. Young Sil's voice crackled through the speaker. Jung-A, are you okay? If you come looking for me, I'll kill you myself, Jung-A said harshly, to protect her partner. But Young Sil, worried about her, came rushing. Meanwhile, the tracker Manager Park, attached to Min-suk's car, started beeping frantically. Found you, he muttered, following the signal. What he didn't notice was the detective who had been tailing him, now calling for backup as they headed toward an industrial area. Young Sil burst into the warehouse, calling Jung-A's name. But within minutes both women found themselves tied up again, this time facing their biggest shock yet. Surprised. Min-suk smiled coldly. I've been running this entire syndicate from the beginning. I am the chairman you have been looking for. Both women stared in fury and disbelief, but their captor was already moving toward the exit. But don't worry, I'm leaving you some company. He released a pack of snarling guard dogs into the warehouse before slamming the door shut. The animals circled the bound women, teeth bared and ready to attack. But Young Sil had an unexpected ace up her sleeve. Her previous job as a pet care assistant had taught her how to read animal behavior. She started making soft, low sounds, moving her body in a submissive posture. Slowly, miraculously, the dogs began to calm down, their aggressive stance melting into curiosity. At the nearby port, Manager Park arrived with murder in his eyes. He'd tracked down the man who had stolen his money, and he wanted revenge. But as he approached the dock, chaos erupted. Min-suk and his gang suddenly realized Jung-A had broken free again. Gunshots rang out as she dove behind shipping containers, using every piece of cover available. Min-suk spotted Young Sil emerging from the warehouse and took aim, but sirens wailed in the distance. Police cars surrounded the area like a closing net. One officer tried to tackle a fleeing gang member, but took a bullet in the arm. Even wounded, he kept fighting, grappling with the thugs. Desperate to escape, Min-suk fired a shot at Manager Park, drawing the police toward the gunfire. In the chaos, he bolted, sliding into his car with his driver. The police closed in, weapons drawn, but he shouted for the driver to speed up and ram through them. With no choice, they gave way. It looked like he might actually get away. That's when Young Sil spotted an abandoned car and slammed it directly into Min-suk's path. When the dust cleared, he had somehow rolled free, limping, leaving a trail of blood behind. Young Sil followed the crimson drops and found him slumped in an alley corner. In her hands, she gripped a wooden plank she'd picked up from the debris. It's over, she said firmly, raising the makeshift weapon. Turn yourself in. He looked up, bitter and burning with venom. You want to know why I do this? Why I built this empire? His voice was weak but fierce. Years ago, a drunk man in a Ferrari plowed into a pickup truck, killed the driver instantly. 3 witnesses saw everything. But you know what happened? The rich man paid them off. The killer walked free. Money spoke louder than justice. That truck driver was my father, he continued. So I decided, if the world runs on corruption, I'd be the one running it. In one swift motion, he pulled out a hidden gun and aimed it at young Sil. But you're no saint either. Because of what we've done here tonight, thousands of people will lose their jobs, including your friend Song Yi, who needed this work more than anyone. Then the police caught up to him and surrounded him. Let me go, he called out, or she dies. That's when Jung Ah appeared, her eyes blazing with determination. She caught young Sil's gaze and nodded slightly. Weeks of partnership compressed into that single moment of understanding. Jung Ah hurled her weapon through the air to distract Min Suk, while young Sil tackled him to the ground with surprising force. Within seconds, it was over. Even the seasoned police officers stood in stunned silence, amazed by young Sil's bravery. In the aftermath, Min Suk and his entire criminal network were led away in handcuffs. The police also apprehended manager Park. Later, Jung-ah found young Sil sitting quietly. So what's next for you? Jung-ah asked, settling down beside her. Young Sil said, honestly, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. But I know one thing, I gained something more valuable than any job through this whole ordeal. A real friend. Young Sil smiled. Months later, young Sil pulled up in a sports car. Once unemployed and desperate, she was now a successful secret agent, her skills and loyalty perfect for undercover work. She had found her calling in the most unexpected way. Sometimes the darkest detours lead to the brightest paths.